Can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you became a firefighter?
Oh, let's see. So I've lived in this town my whole life. And when I was younger, I had a couple friends who were a little bit older than me that were junior firefighters. So that's kind of how I got into it. Pretty much when I turned 14, I joined a neighboring department. Spent about a year, well, probably about 2 years there before I came here. And I've been here pretty much ever since. My great-grandfather was a founding member of the other department that I was at. I just came here because it was closer to home.
Good deal.
So what inspired you to become a firefighter?
Really, I just, at the time, I just wanted to ride on the trucks. But now, like, it's all about community service and, you know, being able to give back to people, especially in their time of need. You know, I almost take it personally when I try to, you know, I want to make sure that I give the service to somebody that if I was in the same situation that I would want to have. Because I know that it's cliche, but we do, outside of the smells and bells types of calls, we do respond to, you know, the worst day that people experience. And if we can do anything to at least help get them through that day or even make it a better day, you know, that's kind of what one of my driving factors is.
And how long have you been in the fire service?
20. Oh boy. Should be 22 years this year.
What was your first day on the job like?
Oh God, I don't even remember. It was so long ago. I'm sure that I was intimidated, especially because where I went, I didn't really know anybody, and so, like, you know, 14 years old, no experience, walking into a place that I really don't know anyone, and just trying to say, like, hey, I'd really like to do this. How do I apply? And, you know, and then getting my gear for the first time, and just trying to fit in with the other juniors that they had there, and obviously with the senior members as well.
What was your first call? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
What's one call or incident that's stuck with you over the years?
Let me think. I think one of the most complex ones that I just comes to me right off the top of my head was we had a tractor trailer that was overturned into a Jersey barrier, and the guy was so entangled in the vehicle that we essentially had to cut a pathway to get to him, and then we had to cut another pathway to get him out. And it was about a 2-hour evolution. He was pinned from pretty much his waist all the way down, couldn't access it, couldn't see it. He could tell us that he could feel blood running down his legs, and so we tried to move with as much urgency as we could, but it was a very complicated incident. As soon as we got access to him, you know, I also work as a paramedic, which is what I did at the time. We essentially set up the back of the ambulance in the back of the truck cab, and we brought all the stuff to him, the cardiac monitor, we had the airway kit, we had all their bleeding control stuff. We called a physician in from the city of Pittsburgh so that we had on-scene direction, and also the advanced skill set that he brought, such as you know, different drugs like you know, different sedatives and paralytics and blood products and things like that. And, you know, now, like, pre-hospital blood is kind of like the, you know, the thing that people are jumping on board with. And I'm thinking back to this incident that was probably like 10 years ago, and, you know, we were trying to bring it to our calls whenever we knew that we needed it.
Did that happen on 30?
It was on the Turnpike off-ramp to the Irwin interchange from the eastbound side.
So what does a normal day look like for you, if there's such a thing that exists?
There's not. So the days, we try to make sure that we have crews here sporadically throughout the day, and it depends on what their work schedules are like. But the one day that we try to always guarantee is, and we make it more for us, is to just get everyone together on a Saturday here. We'll generally have anywhere from 3 to 10 people here on a Saturday, and it's just the way that we spend our day together. And we'll make coffee and hang out and watch TV, and if the weather's nice, like if it was a day like today, then we'd be out there, taking something off the truck. Let's just review how we do this. Like let's pick the thing that we use the least and make sure that when we do need it, that we're not rusty on it. And depending on who all is here, if we got a lot of our, because we have a handful of newer people, we'll take them out and just do some of the basics with them, trying to get them spun up a little bit better.
How do you handle stress or trauma after the tough calls?
I don't know. I just, people always tell me that I'm emotionally constipated, and so I guess I just deal with it.
Keep it inside.
Yeah. And I mean, there's very little, I can't really think of anything in my time with the fire service that's really stuck with me, that's bothered me, and there's very few things like throughout my EMS career that really even bother me. It's just, I don't know, maybe I'm just weird, or maybe someday I'll just implode.
What's the most physically or emotionally challenged part of your job?
The responsibility of maintaining a volunteer fire service in a day that people don't want to volunteer. It's not an excuse that we're volunteer, that we shouldn't be available to the community 24/7, that we shouldn't have adequate resources for them 24/7. And there are times that that's just not possible in today's world. Now, I think that we're in a much better position than a lot of companies, but I dread the times that I know that we're short, in that some days I'm like, I don't even know if I have a driver. If I'm working, I don't know if I have a driver to be able to get the truck out. Now, I've worked really hard to train a lot of people up and get them qualified on all the trucks, so like that problem's going away. But then again, there's some days that a daylight call will have 2 people, and there's other days that we'll have 10 people. And I think that kind of what stresses me out the most is just trying to do the best that I can to make sure that we're available to the community as much as we can be.
What's something most people misunderstand about firefighters?
I'm going to give you 2 answers. The first one, that what you see on Chicago Fire and all those TV programs, like, one, I don't watch any of those, but I see like clips of people making fun of them, and it's like, man, like, yeah, we don't do stuff like that. And it's not all just fighting fires. There's that's probably the least of what we do. A lot of it is the false alarm type of things, and dealing with the motor vehicle crashes, and fuel spills and wires down and things like that. Not to say that we don't have fires, that we don't fight fires, but it's a lot of people think that that's really what we do all day, and it's just not. The other thing is that people always think of the fire service as a brotherhood, but I mean, if you looked at all the walkers here, you're going to see a lot of female names. And I think that that's a growing trend in the fire service. I think of like back when I was first getting into it, I can think of maybe 2 female members of where I was. We're pushing close to 50% here at this point. And so I actually hate when people use the term brotherhood, because it's not really what it is anymore.
How do you and your team support each other after difficult calls?
I think we're just there for each other. We know when it's time to tease somebody, and we know when it's time to pull them aside and just check on them and make sure they're okay. We make sure that if I do see someone who is negatively affected by a call, or at least what I perceive to be negatively affected by a call, that we don't just follow up with them right after the call, that we do it again in 12 hours, we do it again in 24 hours, until not only I'm comfortable, but again, the emotionally constipated thing, like I'm not always the most sensitive or best person to talk to people about some of this stuff. But I know the warning signs of someone who's kind of reaching their breaking point. and we will get them the resources that they need if they have to. Luckily, we haven't had to do that over the years, but I do know that there have been calls that I know I've come back and I've seen people that have been affected by it, and we just make sure that we stay on top of it and make sure that it doesn't, turn into like a chronic thing for them.
And what kind of training is involved before becoming a firefighter?
So realistically, the only thing that the state of Pennsylvania requires is that before you get on a fire truck to go to an emergency scene, you have hazmat awareness. For us, we will put you on the fire truck with hazmat awareness, but you are limited to pretty much watching. We have there's a couple walkers here from new members. We have an actual checklist that you go through when you start here. And it is completion of your hazmat awareness training, completion of your NIMS training. You have to go through and learn the ins and outs of each truck. And as people complete these, they sign you off on it. Then our minimum requirements to come off of a probationary period here to be a full-fledged member is that you have to have completed all 4 modules of the Essentials of Firefighting course. You have to have completed a lab burn. You have to have a minimum of hazmat operations. You have to have all of your NIMS training. You have to have CPR and first aid. And I believe that is it. So that's like the minimum that we require before you're able to just go off and be a full member here. Realizing that sometimes with work schedules and the availability of courses, that can take a little bit. So I will train people here up to I'll teach them the basics, how to roll hose, how to pull lines, how to spray water, like things like that. But on an emergency scene, they're going to be limited to what they've been trained here, but they're not allowed to actively fight fire until they've taken like an exterior firefighter course. They're not allowed to obviously put an air pack on until they've been trained through one of the local community colleges or the State Fire Academy or something along those lines. So we try to bridge the gap as much as we can, because if I bring in a new member who can't get into an essentials class for a year, I don't want that member to get bored coming to calls and not being able to do anything for that year. So we try to at least get them some experience and to be able to do some things to be in supportive roles. A good example is one of the things that I think that we need to do a much better job on, at least in the fire service around here, including this department, is accountability. And so I've trained a lot of our new people on just how to do the accountability stuff. And, it doesn't take, a lot to do that. Stand by the door, collect people's tags, and give it back to them when they come out. If someone asks you who all is in there, hand them the accountability board. So I'm giving them a purpose, keeping them interested, and making sure that, they don't fizzle out while they're waiting for the other training stuff to come along.
And what skills or qualities make someone a great firefighter?
They have to, they have to have a level of dedication for sure, because, it takes a lot to volunteer the amount of time that it takes, at least in the volunteer fire service, to volunteer the time that it takes to be able to do this job effectively. In addition to that, I would say that they have to be humble, they have to be willing to learn. I think some of the people that I see that don't work out well in the fire service are the people that always have that attitude of, I already know what I'm doing, I don't need to learn that. I've learned this and I've done it this way before, and there's just no room for that. Our guys here, I started another. I've been here 22 years. I started another class tonight that is going on for I think like 8 weeks. So you have to be willing to learn. And then finally, I think you just have to be good with interacting with people. Because again, we pull up first on a crash and like people's emotions are already heightened, and a lot of times we need to be the reasonable voice to help to calm them down, to help take care of them, especially if there's an emotionally distraught parent with an emotionally distraught child. And that's something that you don't just learn overnight. I think it's something that you learn through experience. It takes time to do so, especially, and I'm an EMT instructor. I tell my EMTs this all the time. Like, we'll teach you how to do the skills, but you need to really start to learn how to do the people aspect of what we do, because I would argue that that's probably just as, if not more important than the skills themselves.
And how important is teamwork in a job?
You can't do it without it. If you don't have good teamwork, you can't have one person that just does everything. You can't have one person that, they're going to do this while the other person's going to do this that may counteract what the other person's doing. You have to be a cohesive unit. And I've been through a time here where, we would show up on a call with two guys, and we didn't even have to talk. We just knew what each other was going to do, and we got things done pretty quickly. Now that I can do that with 5 and 6 guys on a truck, the efficiency is just crazy when you're working as a well-oiled team. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about this department, is like, we don't have the cliques and the drama. Like, everyone comes here with an individual purpose. I shouldn't say an individual purpose. Everyone comes here with a purpose, and they just individually complete the tasks that they're assigned to do, and they do it quick. And I'm just very proud of the people we have here for those reasons.
And you mentioned before that you were EMT paramedic. Do you still do that?
Yeah, so I do that as my full-time job, and then I do this in my spare time.
And have you had to use any medical training on calls?
Sorry.
Oh man. Yeah. So a lot.
That question was if you weren't an EMT kind of thing. We weren't sure.
So I'll tell you that we do have people that are not like EMTs or paramedics. But like I said, one of our requirements is first aid and CPR. And so I do expect my people that if we pull up on a crash and there's people injured, at the bare minimum, hold C-spine for us. And they all know how to do it. We train it with our first aid, because when we do our first aid classes here, I teach them what we have to do for first aid, but also like what really pertains to what we're going to do, and let's be good at those, which is usually C-spine, extrication, patient movement, things like that, and then bleeding control. But yeah, we do a good amount of medical care here, and I think it's because like 3 of our 4 chief officers are medically trained, so we just kind of expect it.
And what's the most dangerous situation you've ever been in?
I've been in a couple. The one that almost did me in, it was actually during Hurricane Ivan. And it's gonna sound so stupid, like you think like it'd be the explosions and the fires, like, but it was, we spent all day pumping out basements, and it was late in the evening, and we were pumping out a really large basement of a commercial building, and I was like, I am exhausted, like I am just tired. And the next thing I knew, I was outside of the building, and I was like, how'd I get out here? They're like, you were passing out. And then they took the CO meter in, and the basement was filled with carbon monoxide.
Wow. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Can you share a moment when you really felt proud of your work?
Now. Our department last year, we got hit with an ISO 10 rating. We had paperwork that wasn't turned in. And I guess on the follow-up emails, they weren't turned in time. I took over chief 3 months ago, and just have really worked tirelessly to turn this place around. I think this is a very important department to have in the township, just based on our location. Once I took over, I re-engaged some people who were just kind of stepped away and checked out at that point, and they started coming back. We brought in 9 new members in the last 2 months. We've got 3 more coming in on Monday. We went from an average of, I want to say, like 2.5, 3 people per call, and when I ran the numbers last month, it was 5.5. And I believe this month, I haven't run them yet, but it's going to probably be somewhere around 7, maybe a little higher.
Oh.
So it's, a quick turnaround, and I told people, we've got good momentum. The good momentum doesn't end once our ISO rating comes back down. We need to keep this up. We need to keep pushing forward. I did just run our training numbers for the month. We've done 150 hours of training this month, which is actually down from last month. We were like 2 something. It's really just been, we've had a lot of other things going on this month. But we're looking at probably somewhere around 600 to 700 staffing hours that all these people have done. And so, I mean, that's what I'm proud of. And where was I the other day? No, we were at an event the other day with a couple other fire departments, and they said, you're doing a really good job there. Like, you should be really proud of what you're doing. I said, it's not me. Like, I'm just the figurehead of the department. Like, I'm one person. It's everyone here that's doing this stuff.
Right.
I just, answer all the questions.
And have you had any funny or unexpected moments?
Yeah, yeah. This is another flooding call. I don't remember all of the details of it, but I was standing outside of the house, and we had a couple guys in the house. It was a flooded basement, and they were pumping it out, and I just saw the lights in the house dim. Then they came back up, and I was like, what was that? And one of the guys came out. They dropped something in the water. He reached into the water and got electrocuted.
Wow.
Goodness.
He was fine, which is why it was funny, but yeah.
Wow. How has the role of a firefighter changed since you started?
I think there's a lot more accountability now. I think there's a lot more of a kind of an eye on the fire service, which is good. I think back in the day, when I first started, and it was starting to trend that way when I first started, but there's just a lot more expectations as far as qualifications and accreditations and things like that just weren't there back when I first started. I think it's good because a lot of people will say that that hurts the volunteer fire service. And in a way, I can see their argument that it does chase people away, but it chases people away that that don't want to do that. And granted, like, there are people here that I can tell you they don't want to do that. But there's a lot of people in these lockers that do want to do that stuff. And my job is to help push them and support them. Like, when they say they do want to go get their firefighter 1, they do want to do whatever it is. How do I support them? And what do we give them for doing that? Like, one of the things I'm trying to write up for our meeting on Monday is some type of a reward system for those who do get firefighter 1, because it benefits us with grant money, but I want to give something back to them. But back when I first started the fire service, like, that just wasn't really a thing. People took essentials and that was it. And I still have a use for the people that that know they don't want to come in and go inside buildings and fight fires and all that.
Well, what advice would you give someone considering this path?
I think if you're considering it, just do it. One, it shouldn't cost you anything to do it. And I see a lot of people who come into the volunteer fire service, and they'll gain meaningful careers out of it, whether it be as a firefighter, whether it be as an EMT or a paramedic, but also just the relationships that you build here. Sometimes people that work, that volunteer here have good connections in the companies that they work for. And so I've seen a lot of people gain a lot of personal benefit from coming into a volunteer fire department, myself included. I would have never became an EMT or a paramedic if it wasn't for this place.
And what's one piece of gear or tool that you absolutely depend on?
If I had to pick one, I'm gonna say the one that I wear the most is probably actually no. So tool, I was gonna say my turn-off pants. Let me think. Tool. I would say the radio. So, you can't. There's no call that goes by that you can't function without a radio, or at least one person having it. Now, if you wanted a piece of like equipment off of the truck that's not like a radio, I would say the Halligan bar. You go back to, they've been around for how long, and like there's all these other different tools out there, but tried and true. Anytime that I need to do forcible entry or get a purchase point on a car, like that's the first tool that I grab because it just works.
Pull a ceiling, do whatever.
Yeah, you can do anything with it.
And what has this career taught you about people and yourself?
About people, there are good people and there are bad people. Regardless of whether they're good people or bad people, it's our job to treat them the same. About myself, oh God, I don't know. I can tell you that I've learned a lot of leadership skill here. I've been an officer here for well over a decade now, just the stuff that I got to do on a daily basis. I think I was assistant chief for like 10 or 12 years, and then just 3 months as chief. There's always things that you're learning along the way, both operationally and administratively. I found that your community connections are some of the most important things that a volunteer fire service can have. And maintaining consistent contact with the leaders of your community and the valuable resources in your community. It's something that takes very little effort to do, but the payoff on it is significant.
And what motivates you to keep doing this job day after day?
Just having the service to the community. Like I said, I've been in this community my whole life, and when they need us, they need us. And so I would feel irresponsible to the community if I spent 20 plus years training and learning and gaining experience to just step away and not do it anymore. Like I feel that that's just kind of how I give back to my community.
Do you have a junior program, and what is their role?
So we do have a junior program. It's primarily supportive, so things like getting stuff off the trucks that we need on incidents, helping us to clean up after the incidents, but also like we can put a junior in an accountability role. Outside of that, their role is to really prep to become a senior firefighter here. And we do that through our company training. We do that through the courses that they take at the community colleges, and just prepare them for becoming the next generation of firefighter here.
And how has the job changed since you started?
I would say in a lot of ways actually. It's gotten busier. Areas are more populated, traffic is more dense, the hazards have changed. We have a lot of electric vehicles now, to where back in the day that wasn't even a thing. The way that we have to budget has changed with rising costs of not only equipment, meaning fire apparatus and things that we put on it, but just the maintenance and the fuel costs. Now our township luckily covers our fuel costs. But I've got one of the trucks out here, I'm waiting for an $8,000 repair. That's a significant chunk of what we get from the township every year. So we have to be a little more conservative on what we spend our money on, or we have to find other ways to bring in money. Donations have thinned out because, everyone's feeling the effects of inflation. But again, at the end of the day, what I always tell people is, despite any challenges that we face, we can't make an excuse for it. We just have to show up and perform and do what we have to do. So we just try to spend our money as wisely as we can. We try to budget the best that we can. We try to make sure that we're always adapting to the new hazards that we face. I should say the other thing is the training costs. Like, they're all going up too. So It's a lot more money, and our revenue hasn't really changed a lot. And I would love to have an endless bankroll because I'd be able to do whatever I need to do here. But I don't think that's responsible for the taxpayers for us to just get, a ton of money from all these different resources that, cost them money. So we just try to be responsible and, spend money where it needs to be spent, plan the major expenses in the best way that we can, and don't spend money where it doesn't need to be spent.
What about social media? How has that impacted the fire service since you've been with it for so long? You've seen it go from nothing to now.
Yeah, so it used to be you'd see all the fire departments out there with websites. I'd be really curious to see what the data is like on website hits from then compared to now, because I think a lot of companies just get by, us included, with using Facebook, Instagram, things like that. Now we're only on Facebook, but our Facebook page is significant for us. We advertise all of our fundraisers on it, and we get people that's how we get our word out. But we try to stay active on it in a way that lets people know that what we're out doing, what their tax money is going to, and what kind of a service they're getting out of us.
And what do you wish more people knew about what firefighters do?
I wish they knew the financial challenges of it, because I think that alone would probably open up some eyes and maybe open up some wallets to help us out more. Because the truck behind you is a 1987. I was born in 1987. It's an old truck. It still runs good, but it's going to come to a point that we need to get a new truck, and you're looking at a new truck, and it's anywhere, on the very low end, you're looking $600,000, often closer to $1 million, and that's hard to do on, what some of the annual, tax revenue gives us. And I still think that we're in a good position compared to a lot of communities. I spend a lot of time in rural communities with my job, and I don't know how some of these departments get by, and I don't know how they're going to get by, with how quickly prices of apparatus have gone up. I fear for them.
And if you could change one thing about the job or the system, what would it be?
I think that's the biggest thing that we need to get into now is, and I've said for years that I was going to see this in my career. I think that we need to start relying on paid staffing in what have been traditionally volunteer services. There's a lot of companies out there that are doing stipend programs, which I commend, but it's kind of a Band-Aid on the wound, and it's not going to stop the bleeding. To find volunteers is difficult. I don't know how we found what'll be 12 next month, but a lot of companies are losing more than they're bringing in, and I'm sure that we're going to get to that point again here soon too. And so how long can you maintain that type of a system? How long can you maintain reliance on volunteers who, especially in today's economy, people are trying to work more to be able to afford the things that they need, and that's less time that they have to dedicate to a fire department. So I do think that we need to take a serious look at paid staffing, consistent paid staffing, but I think we owe it to the community to do it in a smart way. This township has 7 companies. Do we need a paid crew at all 7 companies? I don't think so. I think if I was the person making the decision on that today, I would say that we budget for say 8 people or 7 people. You put 3 people at one station, 2 other stations that have a driver and a crew member, and you rotate that through the different stations. I think that's the reasonable, most beneficial way to do it. I think that would keep everyone happy, but we are at a point that we need the paid support. Again, some companies are better than others with this, but I hear some of the best companies in the county that when daylight calls, they're not answering up. and that's just the reality of the volunteer fire service today.
And are there any special projects, community work, or messages you'd like to share?
We did just complete our autism acceptance fundraiser. We were able to raise, I think it was close to $300 for Norwin Top Soccer. Our next fundraiser, which is for us, we're going to be doing our hoagie sale every second Saturday of the month. People tell us they're the best, so if people want to come out and verify that for themselves, please do. The more that people buy, the less time we got to spend out there. Outside of that, we are going to plan a summer open house, try to get some members of the community in to see, again, what their money goes towards, and to meet some of us face to face. And I like to do that in times where, like, we're not on the side of a highway or, next to a house that's got smoke pouring out of it. Like, I think that when you can sit and really get to meet the people who are serving your community, and for us to meet the people that we serve, I think there's a lot of benefit in that.
And, well, we just kind of talked about it a little bit. Does the department do a lot of fundraisers? And which would be the most successful?
The only fundraiser we do is our hoagie sale. And we only do it during, like, the spring and summer months just because of the weather. But it's been pretty successful for us. Some go better than others. But overall, I honestly, like, what really makes the hoagie sale is we have people that a lot of times will just drive by to give us a donation while we're doing it. I had a guy the other day when we were doing it. He bought 2 hoagies, gave us $50, and said keep the $30. And, like, it's little things like that make a world of difference, and can really help to make these fundraisers worth it. Because I can tell you, if it was just the profit of the hoagies, it's not taking us very far anymore. A little side note on that guy that dropped by. He said that we were at his house a couple years ago. It was struck by lightning, caught fire, and he said the only reason that I still have a house there is because you guys were so quick to get there. And I was like, well, yeah, thanks. It was nice to be able to share that to our guys, because I think a lot of times it's missed on just some of the appreciation that the community does have for what they do, because we don't see it a lot. We don't need to see it a lot, but it's nice to see it when you can see it.
And what's the role of mental health support in your department? We kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we don't have anything official. Now, that's something that, so we definitely have this where I work, and it's something that I want to try to expand upon here, so that we do have an official process of when this happens, these are the internal resources, but what I don't have lined up is the external resources. And so I want to be able to have that where I can call, I know who I want to go through, that I can just set it up to where I can call them and say, hey, I need you to come in for a debrief. We just, we had this incident, and I just want someone else to have eyes on our people for a little bit. I've only been in this role for 3 months, so I'm not there yet, but I do plan on being there by the end of the year.
And how do you balance work and family life with such an intense job?
It's difficult. Family life, so, I mean, my girlfriend's a member here. So that kind of helps a little bit. Work, work always has to come first. Because at the end of the day, if I can't pay my bills, then, what use am I to the community? And so I need to make sure that that's taken care of. And then outside of that, actually you'll see a lot of the lockers here have the same last name as me. So, in a lot of ways, and I'm not the only last name that's shared on these lockers, you'll see, a lot of this does turn into a family affair, which is good, because, I think it builds to the bond that we have here.
Is there anything that you wanted to say just off the cuff that we didn't cover? And
depends on the audience.
Everybody right now.
Yeah. So, if I was speaking to the community, I would tell them, just know that we're here, that we have a lot of dedicated personnel that are doing everything that they can to make sure that we're there for you in your time of need, and that you're happy with the service that you get from us. As far as the fire service in general, I think that we need to get away from the, Department A versus Department B. We're all here for a reason. I will work with anybody who wants to work with me. I don't think that we should have these, I don't like this department for this reason, I don't like this other department for that reason. That just gets in the way of what our ultimate mission is, which is to serve the public. And I don't think very highly of people who bring their personalities and their attitudes in a way to the fire service that can be a hindrance to us as volunteers, and even into some of the career departments, in a way for us to be able to do our jobs. So I think we need to be unified, and if we want to achieve goals together, the best way to do it is to all be on the same page and to all push forward together. Because if you want to increase our opportunities for grants, if you want to increase our opportunities for funding, 20 voices is a lot stronger than one voice. And so we need to all be on the same page.
Awesome. That's all we got.
Cool.